Welcome to the Energy Toning Podcast, where I talk about all things energy medicine, consciousness, and how you can live in a higher vibration. Hi everyone, welcome to Energy Toning. My name is Liz, and today I'm just going to continue on with the interview I did with my friend Gavin about his experience with plant medicine ayahuasca. So enjoy part 3.
The important thing is to grow yourself. To become the source, it's not that you can't become the source. It's not that there are restrictions in becoming the source or merging with the source, whichever way you see it. It's about the knowing that you haven't earned your way to become the source. In the spirit form, you don't lie to yourself. The concept of lying and cheating does not exist in the spiritual form, which means you will not break the rules of trying to merge with the source. It's only in the physical form that we want to speed things up because we experience time. We want the reward, so we don't mind the instant gratification. But if there is no concept of right and wrong, and if the time does not exist, then there's no race, there's no rush. But because we're in this physical reality, we have to be concerned about how much time we're wasting in terms of what we're doing here. But
what would you define as wasting time here?
When we die and we're born again, which we will, because it's just the way the system works, we will have no memory of what we did in the past life. We will have no memory of our purpose, and it's like a dementia. Having no mind is a very painful thought. Imagine if you suddenly are robbed of your purpose and any awareness or thoughts or ideas about it. You're a lost soul, and it's really unfortunate. So one fortunate thing that's happened, and I'm talking about myself, is that I'm aware of what I'm aware of. And if I come back here, then there's a chance that I will have no memory of all the work that I did in my past life, which is this life. Then I'd rather use this life and the concept of time, meaning this time, the time that I have in this life, to cover more distance than I possibly can over many lifetimes. And the purpose is to experience from the point of view of the source, but from the point of view of the archetypes, I need to become them. My configuration file has to grow to a point where I can become like them. They're not unlimited. They are only few in numbers. We are not us. We are them in a smaller form, like a holographic universe. They together, you can see them as 7 colors forming white light, and the white light being the source. So they themselves don't have an identity, yet they are super egos.
Yeah.
But not in a negative form. They're just grand. And they're unique. Each one is very unique. And the earth is going through a certain phase or certain age or certain era, whatever you can call it. It's going through a certain cycle right now that it's one of the archetypes whose time has come now to spread its wings in this reality and reveal itself. And it's just a change of time.
A change of guards,
Yeah.
a change of...
But they're all equally powerful, equally wise, equally complex. And it was for the first time that I could see beyond good and evil, right and wrong. Not in terms of intellectualizing it, but actually seeing it. Like I could say, yeah, I get it. I get it. Why there's bad things in this reality, why there's evil, why there's negativity.
Why is that?
Because it's not something I can put in words. It's to understand this is to understand them. These are just properties that we apply to a certain incident or an action. We can say that this something isn't good or bad, positive or negative, because that's the filter that we're using to see it. From their perspective, one cannot exist without the other because the equation is incomplete. At the end, everything has to neutralize. And if we create duality, then duality means that there are two opposites. It's not uneven, it has to be opposites. The only thing that can happen is the duality itself can become extreme duality, or it can become a mild duality. A mild duality means, could be something simple, like if there's a fly, maybe is it okay to kill the fly? And it might be okay with your conscience, or you might feel that, oh, maybe that's something you shouldn't do. And it's all...
I struggle with the most simple things like that.
Yeah, the game of duality that we're playing in our heads is them having fun with themselves. We are just a representation of them. We don't have an individuality of our own. Because we are the small configuration file, and they're large, complex configuration files, which means that many us together become one of them. And the only way to become the source is to grow the configuration file that is us, to become so much, we must expand so much within one lifetime that we're not coming back in the next life, playing the same game from the beginning, which it is. That's why there's a mind wipe, otherwise it's not a fun game. The game will end very soon, you see? And when we say let's say if we say this is, that is much like a prison, being in a prison that you can't escape, or if this is a prison planet, then it's just a perspective. One way of seeing it is, it is probably a prison planet if that way, because you can't escape it. But the only way, you can escape this system, and there exists other layers of systems. This is not it. For this configuration file right now, which is me, for example, this is all I get to play. For me to go to play a bigger game in a different reality, a higher reality, I must expand to a higher configuration file to be able to get the escape velocity in order to
And is ayahuasca or psychedelic drugs the only option for that?
No, ayahuasca is only, you're basically just carving yourself a window to be able to see what's on the other side. It's not the license for you to grow. It's only showing you the purpose. It's showing you the way. It does not do anything for you apart from opening your eyes.
Yeah.
And I value it so much because it's only after opening my eyes I now understand what my purpose is. My purpose is to experience life, which the source wants for itself. But I must also grow. If I, in geek speak, grow my configuration file.
Grow your bandwidth.
The bandwidth is the limitation of the reality. The size of the configuration file is like a spiritual growth. Now, what does it mean by growing one's configuration file? That's the most important question. A simpler mind sees things as good or bad, right or wrong. A wiser person would understand why the wrong is happening in the first place. So while it's not a favorable outcome, the wrong, there's an understanding of why it's happening, which probably the simpler mind cannot understand.
Grasp.
It can't grasp. So in order to grow and expand to a higher configuration file, we need to transcend all this, which means we need to become so much wiser that we can understand it and evolve from it. Only a smaller mind would try and fight it, because that only happens from ignorance and inexperience.
And I guess that's why you hear about spiritual masters having to endure horrendous, because it's like the ultimate of transcendence.
Yes,
in a way.
But from their perspective, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Because they don't give it any weightage, any value of any kind, because giving value means you're also deriving value out of it. So it's an energy exchange. So they avoid the energy exchange in the first place. Because what happens is when you start doing a positive energy exchange, you create an imbalance in the equation of duality.
Yeah.
So it's a trap. And the thing about configuration files is that just like you can increase it, you can decrease it. You can move forward, you can move backward. You can evolve and you can devolve. So that's why you can have two different people. One can be really evolved and the other one can be super fresh in experience.
What would you say about the word love? Like, you know, where does love fit into all of this?
Love is, firstly, when we say love, we ourselves use the word incorrectly. I could say, oh, I love my shoes and I love my child in the same breath. So the word itself is kind of meaningless.
Yeah.
So when we talking about the
universal love, I guess.
When we talk about love for someone close to us, if we have the awareness and yet we take the wrong decision, then karma takes its course. Then karma is applied. If we do something unknowingly, we skip karma for those things. The karma itself is not real. Here's the thing. But the thing about love is that if we feel that love is something of value to us, and if we have the spiritual awareness or the awareness of how this whole system works, then if we create the karma around it, then we cannot escape it. It'll exist. Which means if we start believing in love, then it's similar to creating a thought form. You creating an energy and a connection between you and another soul. The thing is, every soul has their own different journey. When we say journey, we're basically saying that the amount of time it will take for that soul to become a more complex configuration file. It is perfectly all right to form a bonding with another configuration file with a different journey. But we need to be mindful of the fact that by linking ourselves to another configuration file, it can either increase or decrease our growth. That is what the meaning of love is. It's a connection.
That's, I guess, more in the context of like partnership and romantic love. Everything.
Even for a child. And whatever.
Yeah.
And love and hate, the opposite feeling of the love, is absolutely the same thing with the opposite polarity. There's no difference between the two. But it's a connection. The hate connection or the love connection is just the... if it's serving you, which it shouldn't, because it becomes a very selfish thing to do, to have someone in your life or something in your life because it serves you.
What about the whole idea of, you know, we went through Lynn McTaggart's books where, you know, you're sending positive intentions to people. That's another way I would describe love. And, you know, there's very positive biological effects that has on both the receiver and the sender. How do you make sense of that compared to what you're talking about with these archetypes?
The system of energies in the physical reality versus on the spiritual reality are two very different things. So when we're sending someone healing energy, we're doing it on a physical level, not on a spiritual level. Spiritually, we're all complete. We only lost our path. That's pretty much it. And with different configuration files. So when in the physical reality we heal let's say we try to heal someone, then all we're doing is, because this is also a closed system, and every system has energy exchange just going on between people and things and whatever. If we're channeling the energy towards another soul, another person, or for an outcome, then either it will work because there is no restriction, or the other person may not want to receive it. wanting can be on the physical level, which is based on intention, or it can be on a spiritual level based on the path, destiny, or whatever that is. So if our healing does not bear any fruit, then it does not mean that we're not doing it right. It just means it's not meant to happen. So these are all the different rules that we need to be aware of if you're doing something like this. And the thing about channeling energy is that, you know, the wind, when the wind is blowing from point A to point B, then there's higher pressure at point B because the wind gush, but there's a lower pressure on point A because something is leaving point A and going to point B. So if we do not understand the systems and we create our own little energy flow, then it'll have its repercussions. It doesn't mean that it's a negative repercussion. It just means actions have their consequences, action, reaction. So any action will have a reaction. It may or may not be favorable, and the word favorable itself is it means nothing, basically. It just is. So it's a game, and every game has got its own rules. Every system has its own rules. The more we understand the system, the better we can be good at playing it. But then the whole thing may be a distraction.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to be going somewhere, but we stop and start playing something.
But then if you say the whole purpose is to experience, we're kind of experiencing by working with those kinds of energies.
But if we have to climb up a building, and we know we could choose to use the ladder and the stairs, climb all the way up, or we could go through all the floors, cover all the floors, and then move to the next floor and the next and the next. Although time is not relevant and we can take our own sweet time, the problem is this reality which will make you forget it in the next lifetime because of the forced amnesia that it does to us. And that is why it is all the more critical for us to do it in one life if we have the awareness. And for those who do not have the awareness, will naturally not seek or see it, which means for them the time has not come.
And is that okay? That's okay for them. It's just, it just is.
It just is. There's no okay or not okay. It's at the end is right there where the beginning is, because time doesn't exist. But in terms of speaking in the language of this reality, at the end we're going to go back to where we came from. The source did not create us. We were not we were created from the source, but not by the source.
By the source,
Archetypes created us.
Which some people would say gods, like
they're like,
is there any linkage to the Greek mythologies and all the mythologies that?
Every time in the history we've read about something which sounds similar to this, is them channeling that information, or from either altered state of mind or through someone or something, or whatever, and seeing the whole thing. But
is this where religion comes from?
Religion is much lower than that.
Right. Okay.
Religion is almost our level or slightly higher. Slightly higher.
Because it's a man-made construct.
It's a man-made construct.
Yeah.
It does not exist. None of the religions exist because they're there to keep us lost.
Yeah. But is there any point that maybe religion was initially created because someone was inspired by something higher and they tried to bring it into a physical realm?
See, Christ was not Christian, which means he was trying, let's say he existed, then that energy form was trying to communicate or pass on a message or a knowledge to the uninitiated and the smaller configuration files, or whatever you want to call it. But people were they were so not evolved to even understand what it was, let alone go deeper into it.
Which is really consistent with, you hear of the people who channel, entities or whatever. It seems that they're saying the same thing, like it's coming from somewhere else.
One important thing that I got out, I mean, there's so many important things. One important thing is that we shouldn't look outside for answers. Everyone's lost. But you've got all the answers waiting for you inside. By inside, I'm not saying within you. We're just a transmitter receiver, which means we can connect to the source of the TV channel and whatever the program you want to watch. It's all there. Rather than asking someone what was on the TV, you can just
do it
yourself.
Yeah.
And the good thing about doing that is you will get there will be nothing lost in translation, which means it's not or Chinese whispers, which means if I'm talking about whatever I'm saying, it will not be received in the same form, because me speaking about it is already diminishing and reducing the actual message and the quality of it.
And it was your experience.
And it's my physical form that is doing the translation. In my case, I had exchanged so let's say you got a specific certain bandwidth to work with, and you got your 5 senses. It's up to you to decide how you want to spread that energy. In my case, I'd reduced it from the speech center and put it more in the thought center, so I can think better than I can speak. But that's a choice. Everyone makes choices. That sometimes you have people who can speak like, they'll be so enchanting, but yet when you speak to them, they might sound hollow or empty.
Yeah,
that's because that's what they wanted for that life, and that's the choice they made.
In terms of you moving forward and you going on this journey, doing the work, or we don't want to call it the work, but experiencing yourself or making sure you're not going to waste time. What does it look like day by day by day by day?
For me, at the moment, I'm trying to understand my archetype. We are all just a reflection of our archetypes.
So is it meditation that you like?
These
I'm trying to bring it back to the physical world.
So meditation is just a tool. If I'm sitting down and thinking, for me, that's doing more work right now than meditation. But then it wasn't the case before ayahuasca, in the sense that if I were thinking before my ayahuasca experience, I wasn't doing the same thinking, because I was going in all wrong directions. So I wasn't going towards my destination. I was just moving around. So the thoughts are like random. There's no. There may be great thoughts in this physical reality, but they're not aligned to my purpose, my destination. And it's important that they align, because that is the only way you can grow. Having great thoughts, doing awesome meditation and anything of that sort it's no different than doing something bad, because you're lost either way. But if you're doing something smallest in the direction of your purpose, towards your purpose, even if it's a baby step, then you're much closer towards where you need to be.
So what would that look like? I'm trying to conceptualize it.
It is very different for every human being. So it's, if I give my own answer, it will only be relevant to me,
you.
Not to someone else. Because we're like different color M&Ms in a bag. Everyone's got different flavor and
different frequencies.
But inside we're pretty much the same. The other important thing is to understand what your archetype is, because what will happen is if we try and do things differently, which we can, it'll just be harder.
Right. So it's like going against the grain kind
against
of thing.
Against the grain, yeah. What happens is, let's say we come across someone who's who we admire or look up to, and we want to mirror that person, but let's say that person is of different archetypes, and everyone's of different archetypes. Then we're not serving ourselves, and we're just making our lives difficult, because we cannot become like that person, because we're not the representation of that archetype. and we're not fulfilling our own destiny as well. So
it's kind of like we haven't been programmed that way.
So it's important to know what your archetype is, and I can't put it in words as to you can't describe it in words. It's something that you have to experience. I was smelling it, tasting it, feeling it, seeing it, and so much more.
Did other people have a similar experience?
So there were 3 guys and 5 girls there in the ceremony, and most of the people, I think about 65% of them most of the people there had a negative experience.
Right.
Negative is a wrong choice of words.
It's just not what they would have wanted.
It was a painful experience, traumatic experience for them. Because the thing is, from what I've read and understood and experienced, until you've cleared your own baggages and dealt with your traumas, you really cannot take more on board.
Yeah.
And you need to travel light. You can't be distracted and expect yourself to walk towards your destination, because you might just go in a whole different tangent.
Yeah.
So it's important to let go of everything that's holding you back in order to then have a clear vision as to where you need to go in, and then you will walk towards it.
Would you say that some of the other people were there more for recreational reasons? Or
no, there was no one with a recreational reason over there, because everyone was serious. Because my guess, after having spoken to them on day 2, I was able to gather that everyone was aware of what the medicine does, and in ways they definitely were prepared to experience traumas, because maybe I was picking it up from their body language, but I knew that they had things that they were aware that they had to deal with, and they were, with that awareness, they were ready to experience their past traumas once again, but this time just to release it out of their system.
Yeah, so it's the kind of thing that maybe they couldn't consciously deal with. They had to, again, access a new level of thinking to be able to process. In this physical reality, you have certain groups that'll talk about ignoring it and not reliving it because it does not serve any purpose. So therefore, the best way to move forward is to not dwell in the past. There's another point of view, which is to experience it in order to release it. But where they lack is the releasing aspect of things. So they'll make a counselor or whoever is helping you out might help you relive the trauma, but they may not do a satisfactory job, or you may not be able to clear it out of your system, because they're 2 very different things. And only in my experience now, having seen the other realities, anyone with a degree or an experience of counseling someone cannot help anyone unless they've done their own shadow work or cleared themselves first. Which is a really tall order, and
it is.
Which is, look, it's not that counsellors and psychotherapists and psychiatrists are not useful. I don't think that they're not useful, but I think probably majority of the time they're not useful.
That's a fact. And the thing about this physical reality is that we're so disconnected from the real reality, which is, the reality is, again, bad choice of word, but we in this physical reality, we're disconnected from what matters most, from what matters at a soul level, spiritual level, because it is very myopic to see everything within one lifetime, whereas we've lived so many lives in the past. So it's important to get full perspective and a proper understanding of our journey and from all the lifetimes, because what happens with most of the people is that we almost all of us, we carry baggages from one lifetime to the other, and to make matters worse, we have no memory of it.
So there you have part 3 of my interview with my friend Gavin. I hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned for part 4 coming up very soon. Have a great day. Just before you go, would you like to supercharge your meditation? Would you like to release negative energy and experience profound inner peace in 10 minutes or less? If so, take the 7-day challenge that has freed up people's hearts, minds, and emotions and unleash their personal power using nothing but their own voice. Click the link below for more information.